So welcome to this second video where we're going to look more at variables. We're also going to look more at how we can interact with the worksheet itself, and we're going to look a little bit at how Rootsmagic itself can be a little bit tolerant in how it imports stuff from Gedcom, and a few little quirks that we can use to our advantage. And here's our Gedcom file which we created in the previous video. I'm going to make a few changes to that. So firstly, I'm going to change the individual number here to 999 so it's easily identified. Sex, let's change that to lowercase. Is Rootsmagic going to mind? I'm not sure. Let's find out. Let's change the date format to this date format. Let's change the date here with the month to lowercase. Let's add a few more line breaks, just the way we did originally. And finally, what I'm going to do, remember I mentioned places, so I'm going to paste in here a place. I'm going to rename it as let's see, my place. So going back to our Gedcom, I'm going to save this now with the spaces, with the alterations that we've made, and let's see if Rootsmagic minds any of that when it imports it. So back into Rootsmagic, here we have our single individual lists, place list. We only have the one entry with the two place details, which we know about. So I'm going to import that new Gedcom file in here. So Gedcom import, I know where the file is. There's the file there. Combine into this database. Okay, and there it goes. So now we have individual 22322 and we also have individual 22326. So it didn't accept our 999 individual number, and the reason for that is you're combining into an existing database. When the Gedcom is combined into an existing database, Rootsmagic will assign new individual numbers. In other words, it won't use ones that are supplied by the Gedcom. If you had have imported that Gedcom into a new file and clicked the box for preserve record numbers, then you would have had individual 999. So this individual 22326 is our new individual just imported. We can see that as regards the dates, Rootsmagic didn't mind the changes that we made to the date formats. We also have them down as male, so it didn't mind the uppercase to lowercase change. And if we go to our place list, let's have a look. We have a new place. It's here. It's got the geo coordinates and all in there. So if you had a place list which was in Excel and you added all of the geo coordinates to it, you could actually write a little bit of code to import this into a Gedcom and bring it into Rootsmagic. Now I'm sure there's some people out there that are starting to think, I remember this stuff from school, and if you do, that's great, because versions of BASIC do differ in their syntax, but BASIC is BASIC, and once you start programming with it, it'll start to come back to you. Now things are going to start to pick up a little bit in pace during these videos, so it might be better to watch the video through and then watch it through a second time using the pause button and copying the examples that I'm outlining. That way you'll actually be achieving the results right in front of you. So over on our worksheet, I've populated a few fields just for the single individual that we've been dealing with. So Surgeoner, William. For sex, you'll notice I've put male rather than the M. I've put the baptism date in traditional date format. The church as being Presbyterian Church, that will become place details. And the place being Ballylinny Parish, Antrim, Ireland. So you'll notice I haven't put a birth date in here or a birthplace, as I want you to start thinking about creating information on the fly when you're creating the Gedcom. In Excel, the rows are in numeric format, and I want you to start thinking about the columns in numeric format as well. So column A through to F, we're actually thinking about columns 1 through to 6. So we can see that row 2, column 5 is Presbyterian Church. If we flick back over to our Visual Basic environment and enter debug print cells 2, 5, we get Presbyterian Church. So that's how you reference the information that's actually contained in the worksheet. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring that into our variables in Visual Basic so that we know exactly which piece of information is which. And you'll see at the top of this project where I've dimensioned my variables. So I have surname, forename, sex, baptism date, baptism place, and baptism church, and they're all dimensioned as strings. And that basically just means that the information that's going to be held in those strings is textual. And as you can see, dim is the abbreviation for dimension, but it's just the same as setting the variable. So you're assigning a variable that you're going to use later on in your project. Now you can see in the first piece of my subroutine how each of those variables I'm actually going to collect the information from the worksheet. So surname is equal to the information which is in cells 2, 1. Forename is equal to cells 2, 2. Sex is equal to left cells 2, 3, 1. We'll come back to that in a second. Baptism date is 2, 4. Baptism place is 2, 6. And baptism church is 2, 5. So the sex variable will be the single character to the left of the information contained in cells 2, 3, that being the letter M. So you can see that I've already changed the Gedcom file name to lift from sheet. So let's have a look at our output code. So here we print the all important first line of the Gedcom 0 space head, and then the individual number we're still using I999, even though that won't be recognized in a combined Gedcom. So on the next line we have print hash 1 comma inverted commas 1 space namespace ampersand, and then the variable forename ampersand, and within inverted commas space / ampersand the variable surname ampersand inverted commas / That will combine all those components into exactly what we want for that line. On the next line, print hash 1 comma inverted commas 1 space sex space and the variable sex. So that's going to basically print out 1 space sex space and the letter M as we discussed previously. The next line involves no variables, it's just the standard print format for the Gedcom tag for birth. So we didn't include a birth date in our spreadsheet, and you may choose not to do this. Different people have different styles. But what I'm doing here is I'm saying print hash 1 inverted commas 2 space date space BEF space and baptism date. So we know what the baptism date is, and I'm basically saying the birth date is before baptism date. This next line deserves a little bit more explanation because we've covered the likes of midstring, which is involved here, but there's another command involved here which is IMSTR, which we did not cover. So again, making a certain assumption, and some people will choose not to do this for obvious reasons, but in Irish research, baptisms tend to be very close to birth events. So in the majority of cases, it's reasonable to assume that the birth actually took place at least within the same county as the baptism. So in this line, what we're printing out is the place for the birth event. So the mid brackets baptism place, comma, in STR baptism place, blah, 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 blah. Basically what I'm doing here is I'm looking through the baptism place, which is Ballylinny Parish, Antrim, Ireland, and I'm looking through that string for the first instance of a comma. What I'm saying is that what I want to print out to the birthplace then is everything to the right of the first comma. In other words, I'm excluding the specific place and I'm just including Antrim, Ireland in this example. The next line is just a straight print for the tag for baptism, then printing out the baptism date using the variable, followed by the baptism place, which as we know is Ballylinny, Antrim, Ireland, and then the place detail, which we know is Presbyterian Church. And finally the 0.trlr, which is the trailer which needs to end the Gedcom, and then close the file. So let's run this and see what we get. Again, runs on a flash, Flicking back to our program directory, we can see that we now have another Gedcom file. So if we open that in the text editor, we can see our Gedcom. So let's import that into Rootsmagic and see what we get. So we now have an additional William. The dates are all perfectly okay. For the birth we have Antrim, Antrim, Ireland. For the baptism we have Ballylinny Parish, Antrim, Antrim, Ireland. And for the place details we have Presbyterian Church. Exactly as we intended. Just before we wrap up this section on variables, I'd like to encourage you to use this in your programs. This top line, option explicit. What it does is if you make a typo in one of your variables later on somewhere within your program, Excel will run quite merrily and just not recognize the variable. If you use this option explicit at the very outset of your program before you dimension your variables, then if there's a variable name that Excel doesn't recognize, it will alert you. And it will save you a lot of trouble scouring through lines of code looking for something that's not going to be so obvious. So here's a little teaser for the next video. Here I have a worksheet with the 10,000 some odds townlands of the province of Ulster. And what I want to do is extract the unique civil parish information along with the poor law union, the county and any ordnance survey map reference information that may be contained. 9 lines of code, and here we are in Rootsmagic place list with the 292 unique parishes imported. And you can see that the Ordnance Survey map reference information has come across where it exists and it's been inserted into the note field. So on our next video I'll be dealing with the workings of loops. If you would like to receive email notifications of follow-on videos becoming available, please feel free to subscribe using the subscribe button on YouTube. Vote the video up or down using the thumbs up or thumbs down icons, or leave your comments for myself or others possibly to answer and help you.